Welcome, everyone, to Real Talk. I'm your host, Paul Britton, and we are joined by the godfather of the podcast. It is Sergio Barrera. Sergio, how you doing, man?
Doing well, Paul. How's it going?
I'm good. I'm so excited to have you here. Like, I always, but just, yes.
Yeah, especially because I have a lot to say this week. So
Awesome.
I appreciate you having me on.
Okay, so just, spoiler alert, we're going to be doing movie reviews here, as we always do, but the two big ones that we're doing is 2 weeks ago Roadhouse came out on Prime, and then this past week was the release of the next in the Kong / Godzilla universe that's been going on for about 10 years now, which is Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. And we'll start with Roadhouse. So why don't you just give me kind of a background on your history with Roadhouse, specifically the original with oh my God.
Patrick Swayze.
Thank you. I just had Patrick Stewart in my head. I'm like, it's definitely not Patrick Stewart.
That would be a very different version.
Yes.
So humorously enough, I hadn't seen the original until after I saw the new one. Yeah, at the time, when Roadhouse first came out years ago with Patrick Swayze, it just wasn't in my wheelhouse of movies I wanted to see.
Yep.
But being a big Jake Gyllenhaal fan, I was like, okay, well, there's something to this. They obviously felt the need to do a remake. And so to answer your question, my history with the original is that I saw it after. Okay. And I understand the reboot obviously a lot better in the sense of the story it was trying to tell. I think there were a lot of beats that were similar, obviously, to the original.
Yeah.
And both movies. I mean, Roadhouse originally wasn't really, I don't know how much, I think it had more of a cult following than it did, as far as doing well at the theater at the time. I don't know what the numbers were, but they both had their own sort of sense of the story.
Right.
But I understand now why Patrick, what carried Roadhouse, I think, back then is Patrick Swayze was a big deal,
for sure.
And so, he was one of those rare actors that, regardless of what you might think of his talent, he just had it. He had that factor that made his films popular, Right. And so yeah, it's funny. It took the new one to drive me to the old one, and I'll get into what I thought, but in terms of the new one, but I enjoyed the original. I did.
Yeah,
it was, for what it was. It was fun.
So I'm actually in this very similar boat to you. The first time I saw the original Roadhouse was a month ago. So it was before the new one, but not that much before. Like, I told my brother I had never seen the original. He's like, "Oh, you need to fix that immediately." and I have to say, I'm glad that I did. That movie is just one of the most ridiculous movies I've ever enjoyed in my entire life. Like, it is. It just is so. It's one of the most unintentionally funny movies ever. It's and nobody but I think maybe like one of the producers was in on the joke. Like, none of the actors get it. Not Patrick Swayze definitely doesn't get it. And it's just absurd. It is just an absolutely absurd movie. But it works because of how absurd it is. And the absurdity, for fun, there's a line in the movie that literally I did a literal spit take when I heard it, and I was like, I did not just hear that and make this mess. But it was Patrick Swayze is fighting is about to fight the heavy from that movie, like this it's early 90s, so it's a karate bastard kind of guy who like because it's 90s, nobody understands that you actually need people that actually know karate to do these sorts of things, and it's just terrible. But
Yeah.
and the guy says, I used to fuck guys like you in prison, and somebody wrote that down. That like ad-libbed. Somebody wrote that line down to be said in a movie, and that is the most remarkable thing.
Right.
And I know that people are mad that they're doing a remake of Roadhouse, and I want to quell that right off the bat and say absolutely nobody's doing a remake of Roadhouse. What they're doing is they're taking a very general concept and saying we can't just steal this full cloth, and we have to acknowledge that we had an idea, and the idea kind of came from the original Roadhouse, but we're doing a totally different thing, and that's what's going on here.
Yeah, this is a classic example of the term. The very first time I ever heard the term reimagining was for the 2004 reimagining of Battlestar Galactica, the series.
Right.
And this is, for me, this is all this was. This was a reimagining of the story with its own original take.
Yep.
And yes, it carried a lot of the beats from the original, but I didn't need the original to be able to see Roadhouse, the new release,
for sure, and
form an opinion about it.
Right. And this movie comes from Jake Gyllenhaal, who you've mentioned is one of your favorites, and I respect and like in a lot of things. He has some interesting taste. And the director is Doug Liman. And for those who don't know, I'm going to list some of the movies that I know that you and I enjoy from Doug Liman. And it's Edge of Tomorrow, it's Jumper, it's Mr. and Mrs. Smith, it's The Bourne Identity, it's Swingers. I mean, these are, holy crap, that is just an absolute murderer's row of movies. And
absolutely.
So your expectations going in?
Well, like anything else, I mean, you know my taste for silly action films.
Right.
I knew that was going in, and I had heard a little bit about Conor McGregor's performance, beforehand, and it was enough to get me to go. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm expecting. I tried not to dive into it, but as far here's how I would approach it. I was happy it was on streaming because you want to relax in this kind of film and just sort of it's a popcorn kind of film that you just enjoy, that you're not going into with a lot of high expectations, but you at least know that there's going to be, because of Doug Liman and because of the cast, there's going to be something to it. There's going to be some form of enjoyment to it. Plus, the trailers were pretty. The trailer for it was enough to get me to go, yeah, you know what, I need to check this out. I really do.
So, I agree. And here's you mentioned it's something that you want to see at your house, and I would say there's two ways I want to see this.
Yeah.
Way one is I want a packed audience where like half of the audience has had just one beer. I don't want anybody drunk because they're going to be screaming and stuff, but I want everybody just like in the mood. And just ready for a raucous time, or I want to watch it at home, because this is not the kind of movie that you want to go to like an empty theater where like you're one of four people and it's just kind of like, oh, I left my house for this, know, like
exactly. Yeah.
So, so you mentioned the trailer, like as you're watching it, is this unfolding for you as you expected, or did you feel differently as it was?
Yeah, for me, the thing about Roadhouse, this year's release is for me, it was a tale of two movies. There was a distinct moment about halfway through where it turns from. I found the first hour very enjoyable. Okay. It was relaxed. It was the story that it was.
Yeah.
Gyllenhaal's very charming in this film. Everything from his first walk into the Roadhouse, which is its own joke, Um, and the interactions he has with the owner, the interactions he has with the staff, and even the way he encounters the first few people that he has to bounce, right? The witty dialogue was everything I expected, right? And Gyllenhaal is so great at delivering the one-liner, right?
Right.
And in some senses, conversation. The action pieces, that are happening in the first hour of the film are very, they're fun to watch. They move very smoothly. There's nothing too, overdone about it. Then you reach the halfway point, and it starts when we first meet Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
But more so after their first encounter.
Yes.
Where it goes dark, but tries to maintain the humor.
Yeah.
And so, just to give you a sense, so you know how I'm not very picky about action films, but my wife Jen is.
Right.
Within 10 minutes, I was messaging her saying, "You're going to want to watch this movie. I think you'll enjoy it," because again, it had a sort of a light humor tone to it.
Sure.
And at about the hour mark, or a little bit after, I messaged her. I was like, "Okay, it gets dark, but it's still fun." And so, so there was, and that's where, like I said, not having the knowledge of what the original story was, I didn't have that information to process to go, yeah, okay, then it's the same. It's kind of the same story, but
right.
But no, there was a definite sense when it was all over. For me, I was like, this was two different hours of the same movie in terms of tone. Did it get ridiculous? Yes, absolutely. Was I turned off by it? Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
So I just think that there was a definite change in tone that permeated the rest of the movie at about the halfway point.
Let's talk about Conor McGregor now.
Yes, please. Let's.
So
I'm so glad we're starting here.
So first of all, I just want to say my favorite meme of 2024 is there's a guy who, and it's not, I don't know if this is a meme or if it would qualify as like a reel, REEL, or an Insta post, whatever it is, or a TikTok post, whatever it is. There's a guy who is pretending to be the assistant director for this Roadhouse. Mm-hmm. And you only hear him talking, but you get the gist through the conversation from the one side of the conversation that he's been asked to confront Conor McGregor about the way he's walking. And so he says, yeah, Mr. McGregor, look, no, we love what you're doing. We're just wondering, do you have to go to the bathroom? Like, is there something wrong? Like, oh, you don't. Okay. Are you feeling okay? Like, are your arms all right? Because this is the way Conor McGregor walks throughout the movie.
Yeah, it's so, yeah.
And his butt is clenched, his cock is way out in front, and his arms are up. And it is a choice. And I refuse to believe that it's any choice that any director would have given him.
Right.
I think what happened was somebody told him, just do a walk, and he did it. And everybody was like, we told him to do a walk.
Yeah, and then nobody wanted to correct him. You know,
and be like something a little more realistic of what a human being would do, please, Conor.
Yeah, well, and right from the outset, right when we first meet him, the shot that they choose. I don't want to spoil it because if people haven't seen it, I really hope that they do. The choices that are made about how to expose him, so to speak, are very purposeful and very unnecessary. Okay,
yeah.
I don't know what we gained from that. Other than there must have been some sort of clause that Conor McGregor got to do something, whatever he was wanting to do in the film, because I can't believe that was any of that was direction. Yeah, Susan. Yeah, there's an inside joke there, but I just can't see someone like a lineman telling him, look, this is what I want you to do. This is the effect I want you to go for.
Nope.
This was just McGregor being McGregor, and maybe the joke among the crew was like, we're just not going to fix it. We're going to just let it be. And it for me, it could have become a distraction, except that I just knew that we were going to have to put up with this for the rest of the film.
If it distracts you and if you get annoyed, you just need to turn the movie off.
You're taking it too seriously.
I'm being honest, because it's not, the movie's not getting better. And it's it's only going to take away from you're clearly having a bad experience, and it's not, and it's only going to take away from that experience. So you just need to bail. Like the Conor McGregor intro is perfect. I love the way he's like it's just so funny, and then it's every moment after that is so bizarre.
Such chaos. Yeah. It's such a chaotic character, and it's entertaining in its chaotic nature, but it hovers right on that moment of like, this is too much, right? That what saves it for me are the fight sequences that occur, and the back and forth with the other goons, because he's so over the top. Right. This was, if I may, for a moment, speaking of the other goons in the movie, where do you find these guys? Like, how are these the guys that you're picking to do your dirty work?
Yeah.
But then, of course, we meet the villain, and we're like, okay, it kind of makes sense because you're an idiot. So
this guy is a total idiot.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the Conor McGregor TikTok post that I was referencing, because the second half of it is, or not the second half, but there's another part where he's like, they're like, well, okay, so, and then he says, no, don't worry about the lines. Nobody can understand you anyway. Because I want to pick up on that. He's completely unintelligible. Like, completely. And again, there's just nothing to do with it. Like, there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. He's clearly doing a thing.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed it in spite of myself. I'm just going to be honest. I enjoyed it in spite of myself. I wanted to hate it. I wanted to be annoyed. Same. I wanted to go John Cena on it and be like, this guy can't fucking act. Why was he hired to be an actor? But this was not that. This was clearly, this guy cannot act, but he's 100% all in. And as long as I don't have to see this ever again, I'm happy.
I'm speculating, but I wonder if there was some form of agreement with this film and the UFC, and obviously the use of him as the bad in this movie.
Did they in order to get, because the background on the Jake Gyllenhaal character, by the way, is that he's a former UFC fighter, and so did they need to bring Conor in to get permission to use UFC?
And the reason I say that is because obviously it's going to bring fans to the movie, right? Because, he's in it. But as a person, he's pretty well spoken. That's why I was so confused by the choices that were made. He's a menacing guy as a fighter, right? Yeah. But when interviewed, he's a good interview. Yeah. And so this was just, someone told him, I just want you to take you and turn it up times 11 and just go for it.
To that end, I actually think what was said was, I want you to take you, but if you hadn't found UFC, what would happen if you became a hitman instead?
That's actually funny.
What would happen if you didn't find UFC? Where would your energy go? How would you have behaved? Like, if your moral compass said, beating the shit out of people isn't enough, I want to kill them. And go. And then he was just like, okay, I got to go for shit, and what? Oh,
what? Like, why write a script?
Right.
The other thing that stood out to me, and I don't know where this came from, this is just my observation. Having seen him fight several times, he seemed smaller in this film. There's something about how he was filmed that makes him seem like not quite as, like, he's a lanky guy.
Is he? I thought he was like literally not that big of a dude. I thought he was always like, he's big, and he's he's going to be taller than me, but he's not like 6'2".
No. I'm just saying the guy has long legs. Like he's known. I don't know MMA. Like, I can't talk about it in any sort of knowledgeable thing other than people fight each other.
Yes.
But he always had, like, he's known for his kicks is one of the things.
Okay.
And he always had these long legs. He just seems so stocky. And it goes back to what we're saying. It was what he chose to present and how he chose to present himself that was so, and maybe, hey, kudos to him, because at least you can't look. I didn't look at the guy and go Conor McGregor. I just looked at the guy and went, this is insane. Like, this character is insane.
Yeah.
So
All right. As a Florida resident, and a person who has driven to the Keys before.
Yes. I've been there too.
There are a few things I want to say. First of all, not nearly enough movies are taking advantage of the Keys as a location for movies.
Sure.
And I'm sure that it's expensive and a pain in the ass to film it, just because there's one road in and out. And you can't just like shut down the traffic in the middle of the Keys for an extended period of time. So you're constantly having to stop filming and let cars drive through or something. Like, so I'm sure that in the end, what they end up doing is finding places, other places, before you get to the Keys around South Florida, which just basically look like the Keys. And then you go and pick individual spots when you can go and film in the Keys. Sure. But it's an underused location. It's just a super fun location.
Yeah.
And I thought they used it well. The other thing I want to point out is while they got the buildings right and sort of the general look, man, did they miss the feel, because there is absolutely nobody this high strung living in the Keys. Yeah. It just does not like, I refuse to believe that like the guy that is, the bad guy, the mastermind, just this idea that people are cool with motorcycle gangs running around harassing the locals. No way.
Right.
No way. And lastly, the county that the Keys are in. So there's Key West, which is its own thing. And then there's all the Keys between Key West and Key Largo, which I mean is the Wild West in essence. And then the rest of the county is Naples. And Naples is one of the most affluent cities in the country. Okay. Yeah. The idea that the sheriff of this county would be from this little fucking piece of shit Key. No way.
Right.
And that sheriff is never going to be found outside of Naples unless Key West has some major, it's Fantasy Fest week or something. That's the only time he's leaving Naples, because there's just way too fucking much money in Naples for there to like, so in the movie, the sheriff is bought and paid for by this corrupt family. And it's like, no. Like he's not showing up at Class Key for any damn reason, especially the family that happens to own that key. Stop it.
I wonder, to that point, I wonder how, when this is all said and done and he looks back on it, Joaquin de Almeida, who is one of the greatest actors of our time in terms of like, he goes into that category of like, it's that guy. But he's been the villain in so many great films.
I know.
And I don't know. I just felt like there was this sort of like, he wasn't all in on being in this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the way he was presented was just this to me was a character we probably didn't need within the context of the film. Because it didn't really add much, even, in the sense of the peril that his family was in.
Right.
I don't know.
It's silly. And I have a regret in my life.
Yeah.
That this movie wasn't made 5 years ago, so we get Ana de Armas as the love interest.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, you're right. I see that.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway.
I have to say, Paul, I'm glad you brought up the location, because having spent time in the Keys several years ago, gosh, long time now.
Yeah.
You talk about it didn't really capture the feel. There is a vibe that is very real about the Keys, and the time that I was able to spend there was so brief, but I was sharing with our friend Susan that I remember very distinctly, very much like the recall I have of my time in Okinawa, how relaxed I was and just how carefree the whole vibe felt.
It's so chill.
It's the two times in my life that I can tell you and pinpoint to you that is the most relaxed I've ever been. Was one of those times was when I was in Key West in that area.
Yeah, and so like Key West makes you feel that way. The other Keys are that times a million. And those locals, they are not letting anybody act up like that.
Not at all.
They're just not going to let it happen. If you get drunk and start a fight in their local bar, you're fucking dead. Like they're going to throw you into the fucking ocean, and that alligator's coming for you. you know, like, and then they're just gonna go back to being chill. It's like they're just not gonna let it happen. But you know, God bless the Keys as a movie location.
It's great.
Way
underrated. It's beautiful.
Is there anything else you want to talk about on this movie?
Yeah, I mean, well, sort of for my own thoughts as a summation, like what I loved about this film, what I really enjoyed about the film is just how it didn't take itself too seriously.
Right.
You know, right from the outset, it's a really relaxed vibe. Gyllenhaal, like I said, is just able to he can walk through a scene and you're still going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm watching him right now in a movie called Life. I don't know if you saw it. Okay. He's such a subtle presence.
Yes.
You know, within so many of his films, but he's like, he just knows how to dial it up or down however he needs to. And he just kept this one a certain way. And you know, that performance was fun. Everyone around him, everyone he interacted with, everybody that was, you know, a bit player in this movie. I don't know. I just felt like this was a very easy film to enjoy. Sure. And as ridiculous as it got, I was actually not disappointed that they're leaving it open for a sequel. Okay. You know,
cool.
It was one of those things. And, you know, I thought hilarious in how they did it, especially given the events of the final act.
Sure. It was obvious too, though. It was obvious too.
Like, we were heading somewhere.
As soon as it happened, it was like, okay, I know what's going on here.
Absolutely. And so no, I'm not going to say that I won't be looking forward to see what they do next.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable enough. So.
All right, Sergio. We end all reviews here on Real to Real Talk with our ratings. We use tacos instead of stars, and if we feel like it needs a little extra, we add guac because nobody eats half a fucking taco. So, Sergio, where do you land on this? How many tacos are you getting?
Paul, I was so close to going to 4 tacos. I really was.
Okay.
Because of how much I enjoyed it in that first hour.
Okay.
But then it got over the top. So I'm going to go 3 solid tacos. Guac for sure.
Okay.
Just because it is the kind of movie that I'll probably watch again when the sequel comes out just to enjoy it one more time.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was so much fun, and it falls right in that wheelhouse of, you know, whatever the reviews are going to be, you know, it's going to be this year's Hudson Hawk in that, people are going to think it's ridiculous, but I loved it, and I have I'll defend that opinion to the death.
Sure. So. I'm going 2 tacos plus guac. Like you said, they're really good tacos. Like this is probably going to be my favorite 2 tacos plus guac movie of the year.
Sure.
Easily.
Yeah.
But there's so much to it that just is like, oh, you got to be kidding. Oh my God.
These ratings make sense for how you and I look at movies.
Yeah. And and you mentioned you liked the first hour, and I also liked the first hour, except like I would have edited it. I would have. There are like 2 or 3 little scenes, like the scene with him on the train track. I'm just taking that out. We don't need that. Like it feels completely out of place with the movie. I understand what they're trying to do. It's still not necessary. There were enough little things in this movie that I was like, this just needed one more rewrite or one more edit, and it would have been, you know, on par with the original. But tacos plus guac for that one. So the next super fun brainless movie that we get to see this week is Godzilla X. What's that?
Brainless. That was fun.
Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. Now, before we dive into this, this is the second or third of the Godzilla and Kong movies that I think it's the second. I know we did Godzilla versus Kong when that
we did. Yeah.
I don't know if we caught the first Godzilla movie or not. I know we weren't together at Skull Island. I don't think we did. I'm not sure.
The first one came out in 2014, so Real to Real Talk started in 2015. So yeah, we didn't cover the first one, which is interesting because I'm gonna harken back to that in my thoughts.
Okay, so we'll start with the past ones. And I'm gonna start it by reminding everyone that this is the series that not only introduced not just the idea, but the fact that the Earth is hollow and that there's just a whole other universe going on underneath the surface of the Earth that is only accessible through trans-dimensional portals. Why you need to go through a portal, and like, so it's not really even a hollow Earth. It's just a Earth with portals on it, and this place where you end up might as well be on the other side of the universe.
Right.
Let's ignore that for let's ignore that for a second.
Well, they did. So
they not only did that, but they also said, oh, by the way, there's a corporation, a secret a secret corporation, which has developed supersonic tunnels, tubes that connect Los Angeles to Hong Kong.
right.
Like, and it wasn't even Los Angeles. I think it was like Washington D.C. to Hong Kong or something ridiculous like that. So they're underneath this, but above the hollowness, but below the surface, there are supersonic tubes that carry people around. So just throw anything out the window. Expectations, thoughts, reality, everything goes out the window. And and here's your movie. So that's where we're starting from. Up until this point, I have enjoyed these movies. I have found them fun and stupid. What have you felt?
I have not. Okay. I remember when we talked about Godzilla versus Kong that I told you, and I have to go back. I was curious what I rated it, because on revisit, I was like, this really is a stupid movie. Like, it's really a bad movie. It's
so stupid.
The thing about this franchise, and I've shared this with a few folks in conversations since I watched the film. The thing about the MonsterVerse franchise, these 5 films, is that somewhere along the way, decisions were made to go a different direction. Because when I think back to the 2014 Godzilla, Bryan Cranston, and I forget the gentleman who was the main character, that movie treated Godzilla in a way that was... It harkened back a bit, because I think you would agree, Paul, there is a difference between how Godzilla as a character is treated by all of the films that originate out of Japan, as opposed to any film done in America, whether it be the Matthew Broderick one that was so bad to this now new franchise.
Right.
I don't know, is it new? It's been 10 years. This is Godzilla superhero, and that's not what Godzilla is. When we go back to the first film, the thing that I loved about that movie is that it still treated Godzilla as close to a nemesis, some form of threat, right?
Right.
But then at the end, it was like, okay, well, we just didn't understand him, right? And I was okay with that. Kong Skull Island, phenomenal film.
Oh wow! Okay.
Stands on its own. It's of the 5, it's my favorite.
John Goodman.
Yes.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. But from King of the Monsters to this, I have hated this franchise because this became Godzilla superhero.
Yes.
And that's not what this character is about. Forget all that for just a second. Every single film since that one, collateral damage means nothing.
Nothing at all.
I am so taken out of the experience by the wanton destruction.
Yes.
You don't see that in the first film. In the first film, you see people getting evacuated to bunkers, right? In other words, to me, there's a thoughtful approach to this, these events with these titans.
Yeah.
Everything since then, it's like, dude, by the time we get to this film, given how Titans are treated, the Earth should be a ruin.
Yeah. Like, the death, like, I want them to, I just want one scene where they flash a death toll on the screen.
Yeah.
Like 250,000 people died in Rome today. And it's
serious. Like, okay, and it's so casual.
Yeah.
That I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. I mean, are we spoiling?
No. Yes, you can spoil. Like, hold on.
I just want to say this. When this movie's over, the pyramids of Giza are gone. Like, what the hell? Like, nothing is sacred in terms of human life, first of all.
Right.
And second of all, any form of landmark.
Right.
And
by the way,
there's no thoughtfulness put toward this.
Yeah, like, so... And I have liked a lot of movies that destroy landmarks, by the way. Like, let's... Independence Day, blowing up the White House. Okay, cool. Like, but it was targeted, and it felt like it served a bigger purpose.
It made sense to the story.
And it had heft. It had it was like, oh my God, a comet just crashed into Grand Central Station. That's terrible. Like, not comet, an asteroid just crashed into Grand Central Station. And it's like, it's terrible. Whereas here, it's just like, oh my God, they just knocked over the Acropolis.
It's almost like, well, what are these buildings doing here? Like, the scene where Kong whips something, or no, it was the villain Kong, the villain ape, uses the whip thing to grab a half of a building and fling it. I'm like, there are people there.
There are people in that building,
and no one cares.
No, I agree.
It bugged me. It really bugged me.
And that's why, if Godzilla is a hero, he's a hero in the DC universe, because this has been my problem with the DC universe all
I know where you're going. Yeah,
is that, like, especially you go to Man of Steel, and it's like Superman has a fight with Zod right in the middle of New York City, Metropolis. Thank you. And Superman never does anything to get Zod out of Metropolis, and it's like, no, like the whole thing is that Superman would never let this happen, and
exactly,
and there are people defending Godzilla, and it's like, okay, but no, like, come on.
There was so much in this movie done, and it happened in the previous two, that was just about creating a spectacle. Okay, so do we or do we not like Godzilla? Because every time Godzilla appears, and it happens in this film, we're shooting missiles at him.
Right.
Somebody make up your mind. Like, right. And it's just for spectacle, and that just took me out of it. I'm like, and dude, like I said earlier in this today, I forgive action movies a lot.
Yeah.
But this one just pissed me off.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
It really, because it was so senseless. Yeah. And please, good Lord, I hope you have a comment about the soundtrack of this film. Because I don't think there was a single second of this 2-hour movie that didn't have crescendo type music. I was so fucking annoyed. I was with our friend Nick Kramer. I wanted to punch him, like, because he'd seen it the night before, and he didn't tell me. And we talked about it like the next day, and I was like, I wanted to punch you. Like, every time something pissed me off, I just wanted to punch you. Because he didn't warn me.
Why would you go to this twice? Bam. So the first Godzilla versus Kong, I just went and checked my letterbox. I gave it 4 stars. I'm not gonna lie. I really enjoyed that movie. Like, that was just a super fun, stupid movie. I don't know what happened in the 2.5 years that have transpired, but that fun was just sucked right. Like you said, it did not feel fun. And right. I think part of it was that everything happening in Godzilla versus Kong was so ridiculous and so over the top and just so whatever. And it's like, and now we have to justify that. And it's like, that's where it becomes really problematic. And that, they should have just left it at 1 but they're going to make another one because this thing made $80 million. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't understand how this thing made $80 million.
Yeah.
I there were aspects of it that I did like, I did, if you ignore the fact that, 1 million people died in Rome, I do like seeing the animals and giant beasts and stuff.
Sure. They had a lot of desert to work with,
Yeah. Pacific Rim is a great example of like one of these movies where it's like, but there are, there's consequences and there's it feels impactful.
Yes.
It's just,
I said the exact same thing just yesterday. Yeah. Yeah. The thing about this film that at the end of the day for me was such a disappointment, and I should have known going in, because like 2 nights before the film, I didn't even rewatch I scanned King of the Monsters and Godzilla versus Kong. Like I just sort of picked up some scenes to remind myself how I felt about him, and I was like, yeah, this is just the thing about this film that we've got to mention.
Yeah.
Is there any part of you that thinks that this movie might still have been understandable if we had had no human beings in it whatsoever? Like we would have gotten the story.
The movie is completely incomprehensible if there aren't people. There is so much plot exposition in this movie.
Oh, sure. No, I get that. But we could have at least made out the fact of what was going on, right?
I don't
to some
know.
degree. Because
that was one of my problems with the movie is how inexplicable it was.
Sure. Okay. Well, okay. Having said that, then my point is, why bother with the people? Like it was so poorly written, the dialogue. There were a couple of characters that I'm like, okay, they were fun, but at the end of the day, it's like it brought so little to the table.
Okay.
And yes, you're absolutely right. There were points where, okay, we're only getting this monologue because we got to know what the fuck is going on.
Right.
But it was so, and then, see, now you got me started. The Iwi, like,
yep.
Oh, they've been here the whole time, but
we've been here the whole time.
But we sent a faction to Skull Island.
To what? Yeah.
But
why? And and then why they got to do Mothra dirty like that?
Yeah, seriously. Oh, this movie pissed me off.
And why can't we get a moment where Mothra and Kong have a moment? Like the whole point of Mothra is that Godzilla and Mothra. Why can't we get a moment where Godzilla and Mothra have a moment? Like, they know each other. They're in love. Sorry. Like, it's just the way it is. Like, if you've ever seen any Mothra movies before, that the two of them have a special thing.
Right.
And we don't get that. Like, we can't get, like, the moment where kind of Mothra just, like, talks, gives Godzilla a browbeating, and Godzilla feels bad for, destroying Rome and sleeping in the Colosseum. It's like, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was just an amalgam of a bunch of people with ideas, and they just decided to put everybody's idea into it because someone said, "Wouldn't it be cute if we put Godzilla? He nests.
He's
in
so
the Colosseum."
Cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Think of him like a cat. You know how when there's a box and the cat goes in the box? What if Godzilla just likes to go into stadiums whenever he sees stadiums? And what if that stadium was the Colosseum? Wouldn't that be cute? Yes, totally cute. Totes cute. Let's do it.
I mean, let's destroy every other iconic structure around the Colosseum, but let's keep the Colosseum.
God, Godzilla, please be careful when you're stepping out of the car.
Oh. Right, get out of the exactly. Yeah, there's a scene that is so inconsequential, but it still pissed me off. We see him traveling in the water.
Yeah.
And if you remember back to the first of the 5, he would dip under the ships. No, entire infrastructures, he just, knocks over bridges.
Right.
Because, and there's people on him, but he's traveling.
Yeah. Yeah.
This movie made me mad, Paul.
Yeah, it didn't make me mad, but I was I was disappointed just because I was really looking forward to having fun with it. I really was. Because I gave King of the Monsters 3.5 stars, and so obviously I'd been having fun, and I knew that I really like Godzilla versus Kong. I remember just how much fun I had with that movie, and that it just wasn't the case here.
Yeah. No,
Susan remembers you being mad. So.
Oh yeah, I was talking to her like, oh god, I'm so angry right now.
All right.
So, and he overall, like I like that you're saying that you were wanting to have fun with it, because that's what these kind of movies for me have always been.
Yeah.
I fully expected that you would be surprised by my assessment of this movie because, again,
I clearly didn't remember your feeling on Godzilla v Kong.
Yeah, and I'd have to go back and look and see because who knows? But I remember thinking that's kind of when my thought about wanton destruction really started to become a thing because I was like, this is so pointless. Like, but anyway. I guess what I was going to say was, as forgiving as I am of silly action movies, this one I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it because it kind of, I guess to say it insulted my intelligence. I mean, that's not a high bar because I'm not the smartest guy. But at the end of the day, I wanted to have fun, like you said. But I'm glad you found some fun in it. I just was like, I was glad it was done, and the soundtrack alone.
Okay.
Was like, can someone just lower the volume a second or pause?
You're at 11. You can put it down to 10.
Oh God, I can't remember that many things crescendoing in one film.
I am afraid to ask, what is your rating for?
Oh, Paul, this came very close to being. I don't think that in the history of the show we've ever done no tacos.
We have never done. We've talked about wanting to give it.
Very close. This was very close.
So you're giving it one shitty taco.
I'm giving it one taco, and it's a it's a taco that looks like a taco, and who knows what the hell you'll find. But
yeah, it's wet and soggy.
Yeah, I can't.
It was made the day before. It's a gas station taco that was made the day before, and they don't tell you because it's wrapped up, and so you're like, oh, this is gonna be good, but then you get it, it's soggy, and it's
got a clearance sticker on it,
cold or something like that.
Yeah, no,
I hear you.
I can't do more than that.
Right. I didn't hate it that much. I'm giving it 2 tacos, but it did not earn any guac. It did not do remotely enough to so, but yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
everything has to be good, right?
Right. Obviously, I think that was the whole approach to the film by the producers. It doesn't have to be good.
Yeah. So
because it'll make 80 million.
Yeah, it will make it 80. It's going to make well over 150 because it made 80 million opening.
Right. No, this movie's going to do well.
Yeah.
But
all right.
Yeah.
So,
and listen, we've always said, don't take our word for it.
Yes.
Go check it out.
For sure.
So
here's interesting. I have you next on our schedule for the Fall Guy, which is I have a problem remembering the difference between things that Jake Gyllenhaal does, and I can't even remember his name because that's
Ryan Gosling. Yeah.
Like Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Gosling are just.
I put them in the same. Yeah.
Yeah, and so next time we talk, we're gonna get to do a Ryan Gosling movie, and I'm looking forward to it. That'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and that I'll be revisiting our list because there's some things coming up that. I don't know. Is Monkey Man on your list?
Oh yeah, this coming weekend. I'm doing Monkey Man and The First Omen. So yeah.
Yeah,
if you want to talk about Monkey Man, you let me know.
Yeah, sadly, I won't be able to see those probably before your next episode, but I'm definitely gonna want to listen to your thoughts. So I'll look forward to your thoughts next week because I definitely want to see those movies.
It will not be Tuesday. I have Tuesday night plans, but yeah,
okay.
Wednesday or Thursday. I'll always.
Well, hey, if I sneak it in, I'll let you know.
All right, cool. Sergio, thank you so much for coming out. Love having you on as always, and it's great to see you, my friend.
I appreciate you, Paul. Thanks.
I'm good. You are stuck with me for another 5 minutes while I talk about Immaculate and Problemista. So, Sydney Sweeney, just one of the most beautiful people on the planet, is in a new movie called Immaculate. It is in the vein of The Omen and Rosemary's Baby, where somebody is pregnant under questionable, or there's something screwy going on, but this also gets into nunsploitation, where it not only are things questionable about the baby, but it's a nun. So look, demon possession and shit like that is so my wheelhouse. I do 2 things for horror: devil shit and zombies. That's it. Those are my 2. Everything outside of those there's got to be something else going on. I don't know. It's got to be special, but devil shit zombies, I'm in. And this is devil shit. Although it turned, I can't spoil this movie. But I really liked it. I really liked it. It was a really, really fun movie. Yes, fun. I'm saying it. No, it just, this, everything about this freaking movie worked for me. It's not like, oh, this is deep and this is important, and like the original Exorcist or the original Omen, or but it just, as far as a fun, interesting horror flick, 100% works. I am giving Immaculate 3 tacos plus guac, and just delicious and super fun tacos and guac. Definitely check out Immaculate with Sydney Sweeney. The other movie I saw this weekend was Problemista, which look, let's just say it is an A24 movie, and we'll just we'll start off there. Tilda Swinton it stars as a problematic art critic. Just like, it's funny, Sergio mentioned that in Godzilla versus Kong, they made the movie by like just a whole bunch of people sitting in a room and throwing ideas out, and then they just figured out how to incorporate all the ideas. Problemista, the character of Tilda Swinton, is, all right, everybody, just let's talk about the worst aspects of people that the worst personality types and the worst quirks that people have, and let's just put them into one person. But we also have to make sure that she is at least semi-entertaining. And thank God they got Tilda Swinton to do it, because anybody lesser would not have been able to carry this character off. She is playing this weird person, and who comes in contact with Julio Torres, who is a former writer on Saturday Night Live, and who is a guy in his early 20s who has come to America from El Salvador, and he has been fired from his job, and he needs to get a visa he needs to get a sponsor for his visa within 30 days, or he has to leave the country. And in this universe, rather than leave the country, you just vanish. You do not leave the country. So look, this movie is a super, super thinly veiled expose on the immigration process in the United States, and it doesn't pull any punches, and it is interesting and fascinating, and as I said with Immaculate, 100% worth the watch. It's fun. Again, I'm saying fun, but in a grotesque sort of like, oh, I can't believe this is what's going on way. Every character has affects that are just absolutely fascinating. Julio walks really weird, and it's just fascinating to watch him walk. He like walks like he's walking on clouds, and or like he's like a little bunny hopping. It's just really fascinating to watch. This movie just is absolutely heart-wrenching and endearing, and I don't know what to do with it though, because I stop and think about it, and I'm like, do I give it 4 tacos? And the reality is no. Like, I know where I think of movies that are 4 taco movies, and this just isn't quite that. But it's so much better than the 3 taco movies. So I'm doing 3 tacos plus guac. There are aspects of this movie that are so much better than Immaculate. Okay. But the reality is that I had equal amounts of fun with both movies. And there are aspects of Problemista that just aren't as fully fleshed out as I wish they had been. And at times it's like, okay, yes, the immigration process sucks. Maybe not make bad decisions along the way. I don't know. That I might be nitpicking. I do highly recommend this movie. I hope you check it out. Problemista. It just came to theaters. 100% worth checking out. I'm sure it'll hit like Hulu or some other. Oh no, A24 is on Netflix. So I'm sure Problemista will hit Netflix very soon. So be on the lookout for that. This is Really Real Talk. That was Sergio Barrera. I am Paul Britton. I want to thank you for coming out and taking a listen and a look. Next week, I will be taking a look at the Omen The First Omen and the prequel to the original Omen movie. And I will also be taking a look at Monkey Man. Dev Patel enters the action superhero realm. So be sure to check us out next week. Thanks. Have a great day.